My wife rejected my congratulations kiss at her promotion party, so I took the mic, exposed truth publicly, and ended a marriage built on disrespect. 20 people from her department, plus a handful of partners, all gathered to celebrate her promotion to senior marketing director. I watched from across the room as she worked the crowd, that confident smile she had perfected over the years plastered across her face. The same smile I had supported through 3 years of night classes, weekend studying, and countless sacrifices on my end. She looked stunning tonight. Her auburn hair was pulled back in that sleek ponytail she wore for important meetings, and she had chosen the navy blazer I bought her for Christmas last year. At 32, she carried herself with the kind of professional poise that came from climbing every rung of the corporate ladder. But somewhere along the way, she had forgotten who held that ladder steady for her. The DJ was setting up in the corner, and I could see the catered spread they had ordered from that Italian place downtown. Her boss had given a speech about dedication and hard work, conveniently leaving out the part about how I had covered our mortgage for 2 years while she interned for free, how I had eaten ramen noodles so she could attend those networking dinners, how I had turned down my own opportunities so she could chase hers. I walked over with 2 glasses of champagne, genuinely proud despite everything. This was her moment, and I wanted to share it with her properly. After all, we both worked for this in our own ways. "Congratulations," I said, offering her the glass. "You earned this." She took the champagne but stepped back slightly when I leaned in for a kiss. "Thanks," she said, her eyes scanning the room nervously. I moved closer, thinking she had not heard me over the chatter. "Come here, let me give you a proper congratulations kiss." That is when she put her hand up, creating a clear barrier between us. Her voice carried just enough volume for nearby colleagues to hear. "Not here. People might think I need a man's validation." The words hit me like a cold slap. Around us, conversations continued, but I could feel a few people glancing our way. My wife of 6 years, the woman I had supported through every challenge, had just publicly rejected my affection because it might damage her image as an independent professional. I stood there for a moment, processing what had just happened. She had humiliated me in front of her entire office, made me look like some clingy husband who could not read social cues, reduced 6 years of partnership to something embarrassing she needed to distance herself from. The DJ was testing his microphone and the feedback screeched through the room. Perfect timing. I walked over and gestured for the mic. The young guy looked confused, but handed it over, probably thinking I was going to make a toast. "Attention, everyone." My voice cut through the room like a knife. Conversation stopped, heads turned. She looked at me with panic in her eyes, already understanding that she had crossed the wrong line with the wrong man. "My wife does not need a man's validation," I announced, looking directly at her as color drained from her face.
"And I do not need a wife's disrespect. She is officially promoted to single."
The room fell silent for exactly 3 seconds. Then something unexpected happened. Someone started clapping. Then another person joined in. Within moments, the entire room was applauding me, not her. Her colleagues, the same people she had just performed for, were giving me a standing ovation. I handed the microphone back to the stunned DJ and headed for the door. Behind me, I could hear the murmur of voices starting up again. But this time, they were not talking about her promotion. They were talking about what they just witnessed. She caught up with me in the hallway, her face flushed with embarrassment and anger. "What the hell was that?" "That," I said, not breaking stride toward the elevator, "was me refusing to be disrespected by my own wife in public. You wanted to make a statement about not needing validation. Congratulations. You just got exactly what you asked for." The drive home was silent. She sat in the passenger seat, staring out the window, probably calculating how to spin what had just happened. I could practically hear the gears turning in her head, preparing her defense strategy. Our house in suburban Denver felt different when we walked through the front door. The same beige walls, the same furniture we had picked out together, but something fundamental had shifted. She had drawn a line tonight, and I had erased it completely. "Look, I was nervous," she finally said, setting her purse down on the kitchen counter. "There were partners there, people I need to impress. You know how important this promotion is to me." I poured myself a glass of water, taking my time before responding. "Important enough to humiliate your husband in front of a room full of strangers? That is not what I was doing." Her voice had that practiced calm she used during difficult client meetings. "I was just being professional. Women in corporate environments have to be careful about how they are perceived." "Professional?" I turned to face her fully. "Was it professional when I worked double shifts so you could take that unpaid internship? Was it professional when I turned down the promotion in Phoenix because you did not want to relocate? Or does professional only apply when it is convenient for you? She crossed her arms defensively. That is different. This was about maintaining my credibility with my team. Your team that just gave me a standing ovation? I let that sink in for a moment. Funny how your credibility worked out. The color returned to her cheeks, but not from embarrassment this time. You embarrassed me in front of my entire department. Do you have any idea what that is going to do to my career? Your career that I have been funding for the past 6 years, I set my glass down with deliberate control. Your career that exists because I sacrificed mine? Yeah, I have a pretty good idea what it is worth. She tried a different approach, stepping closer with that soft voice she used when she wanted something. Baby, you are overreacting. I know tonight did not go the way we planned, but we can fix this. We can talk to a counselor, work through this communication issue. Communication issue? I almost laughed. There is no communication issue here. You communicated perfectly clearly. You do not want to be associated with me in professional settings because it might damage your image. Message received. That is not what I meant. That is exactly what you meant. I walked past her toward the stairs. And for the record, there is nothing to fix. You made your choice tonight. Now you get to live with the consequences. Over the next few days, those consequences became apparent. Her phone started buzzing with messages from colleagues who had been at the party. Not the supportive messages she had expected, but questions about what had really happened. Word was spreading through the office. By Wednesday, she came home visibly shaken. People are treating me differently at work, she said, dropping her briefcase by the door with less than her usual precision. Different how? They keep asking about you, about us. Some of them seem to think what you did was justified. The last word came out like she could not believe she was saying it. I was making dinner, something simple, since I'd been handling most of the household responsibilities, anyway, while she climbed her ladder. Maybe because it was justified. 3 people asked me today if we were getting divorced. Her voice cracked slightly. My assistant wanted to know if I needed time off to deal with personal issues. Do you? She stared at me like I had grown a second head. Do I what? Need time off to deal with personal issues? Because I am starting to think we have some pretty serious personal issues to address. I thought you would calm down by now. I thought we could move past this. I turned off the stove and gave her my full attention. Move past what exactly? Move past you publicly rejecting your own husband? Move past you reducing our marriage to something that embarrasses you? What exactly are we moving past? For the first time since the party, she looked genuinely uncertain. The corporate confidence was cracking, revealing something more vulnerable underneath. But I had seen this performance before. She had deployed tears and vulnerability whenever she needed to manipulate a situation back in her favor. I need you to understand my position, she said, her voice softer now. I have worked so hard to get where I am. I cannot afford to have people think I am where I am because of my husband's support instead of my own merit. So acknowledging that your husband loves you and is proud of you somehow diminishes your accomplishments in some environments? Yes, it is not fair, but that is reality. I nodded slowly. You are right. It is not fair. It is also not my problem anymore. What is that supposed to mean? It means I am done being your dirty little secret. I am done being the support system you are ashamed to acknowledge. I am done pretending that is normal or acceptable. She stared at me for a long moment, probably waiting for me to soften, to back down like I might have in the past. But something had changed in me that night at her party. I discovered what it felt like to have self-respect, and I was not interested in giving it up. By Friday, she had moved into full damage control mode. I came home from work to find her on the phone in the living room, speaking in that animated way she used when she was trying to convince someone of something. No, Mom, he completely overreacted, she was saying, pacing by the window. I was just trying to maintain professional boundaries, and he decided to make a scene in front of my entire department. I set my keys down louder than necessary. She glanced at me and lowered her voice, but I could still hear her spinning the story. According to her version, I was the unreasonable husband who could not handle his successful wife's independence. Over the weekend, the calls continued. Her sister, her college roommate, her yoga instructor, who somehow qualified as a relationship expert. Each conversation followed the same pattern. She was the victim of an insecure husband's public tantrum. What she did not know was that I had started documenting everything. Not because I was planning anything specific, but because I had learned to protect myself from people who like to rewrite history. Screenshots of text messages where she had complained about having to pretend to be grateful for my support. Voice messages where she had laughed about how I did not understand the corporate world. Monday morning brought an interesting development. My phone rang while I was having coffee before work. "This is going to sound weird," said the voice on the other end. It was Jake, someone I had met at a few of her company events, but I was at the promotion party last week, and I wanted you to know that most of us thought what you did was pretty reasonable. I nearly choked on my coffee. "Come again?" "Look, I have been working with your wife for 2 years now. We have heard her talk about how she is completely self-made and does not need anyone's help. But some of us have been around long enough to know that is not exactly true. When she turned down a perfectly normal congratulations from her own husband like that, man, it was hard to watch. This was unexpected. I appreciate you calling. There is more. She has been telling people around the office that you are controlling and could not handle her success. But the thing is, we were there. We saw what actually happened. You offered her champagne and tried to give her a congratulations kiss. That is not controlling behavior. That is normal husband behavior." After Jake hung up, I sat there processing this information. She was not just rewriting history for family and friends. She was doing it at work too, trying to salvage her professional image by painting me as the problem. That evening she came home with a forced smile and Chinese takeout from our usual place. I thought we could have a nice dinner together, maybe watch a movie. "That is thoughtful," I said, though I could see the calculation behind the gesture. During dinner, she kept steering the conversation toward normal topics. Work gossip, weekend plans, anything that might restore the illusion that everything was fine. But I could see her checking her phone every few minutes, probably monitoring her social media damage control campaign. "I have been thinking about what you said," she finally ventured as we finished eating, "about feeling unappreciated. Maybe I could acknowledge your support more publicly. How generous of you." She missed the sarcasm entirely. "I could post something on Instagram about how grateful I am for your partnership. Maybe mention how you have supported my career journey. Let me get this straight. You want to fix rejecting your affection in public by posting a curated social media statement about our marriage? It is a start." I pulled out my phone and showed her a screenshot I had saved from her Instagram story 2 months ago. It was a post about self-made women with the caption, "When people ask about my success, I tell them it is because I never let anyone else define my worth or make my decisions for me." Her face went pale. "Where did you get that?" "From your public Instagram account, the one where you regularly post about being an independent woman who does not need anyone. Funny how you never mention the husband who has been paying half your bills. That is not what those posts were about, are they?" I scrolled through her feed, finding post after post celebrating her independence and self-reliance. Here is one from last month. "The best investment you can make is in yourself. No one else is going to build your dreams for you." And here is another. "Success tastes sweeter when you earn it entirely on your own." She grabbed for the phone, but I pulled it back. Those are motivational posts. Everyone does that. Everyone does not systematically erase their spouse from their success story while that spouse is actively funding their career. I never erased you, really, because I count 47 posts about your career milestones, and I am mentioned in exactly 0 of them. Your promotion announcement last month credited your hard work and determination. No mention of the husband who worked overtime so you could take those evening classes. She was quiet for a long moment, staring at the takeout containers like they might provide an escape route. "I need you to understand something," I continued, setting my phone aside. "I am not angry that you wanted to be seen as independent. I am angry that you chose to be seen as independent by making me invisible. There is a difference. I never meant to make you feel invisible, but you did. And when I tried to be visible again at your party, you shut me down because it did not fit your narrative." I stood up and started clearing the table. "Now you want to fix it with an Instagram post. Do you see how insulting that is?" She followed me to the kitchen, her professional composure finally cracking. "What do you want me to do? I cannot undo what happened. I want you to understand what you did. I want you to admit that you prioritized your image over your husband's dignity. And I want you to accept that actions have consequences." "What kind of consequences?" I turned to face her, and for the first time since the party, I saw a genuine fear in her eyes. She was starting to realize that this was not going to blow over like she had planned. The next morning, she tried a different strategy. She came downstairs in one of my favorite outfits, carrying a fresh cup of coffee made exactly the way I liked it. "I have been thinking all night," she said, settling beside me on the couch. "You are right. I handled the whole situation wrong. I let the pressure of the corporate environment get to me, and I took it out on you." I accepted the coffee but did not respond immediately. This felt rehearsed. I want to make this right, she continued. I have already started telling people at work about how supportive you have been throughout my career. I mentioned to 3 different colleagues yesterday how you helped make my success possible. How generous. She either did not catch my tone or chose to ignore it. I think we should go to couples counseling. I found a therapist who specializes in dual career relationships. She has great reviews. I sat down the coffee and looked at her directly. Do you really think this is about communication skills? Is it not? We both want the marriage to work. We just need to learn better ways to navigate these professional situations. The marriage? I repeated the word slowly. Tell me something. In this marriage that you want to work, what role do I play? She looked confused. What do you mean? I mean exactly what I asked. In your version of our marriage, what is my function? Am I the silent financial supporter who stays home while you network? Am I the invisible partner who celebrates your wins privately but never publicly? What exactly am I supposed to be? You are my husband, my partner. Partners acknowledge each other. Partners support each other publicly and privately. What you want is a sponsor who does not expect recognition. Her carefully constructed, morning approach was already falling apart. That is not fair. What is not fair is 6 years of being treated like a business investor instead of a spouse. I stood up and walked to the window. What is not fair is being rejected when I try to show affection because it might damage your professional brand. I said I was wrong about that. No, you said you handled it wrong. That is different. You are not wrong about wanting independence. You're wrong about thinking. Independence means erasing your husband from your success story. She was quiet for several minutes, probably recalibrating again. When she spoke, her voice was smaller. What do you want from me? I want honesty. I want you to admit that you have been ashamed of needing my support. I want you to acknowledge that you have systematically minimized my role in your career because it conflicted with the image you wanted to project. And if I do that, if I admit all of that, I turned back to face her, then we will see if there is anything left to save. But even as I said it, I knew the answer. I had already made an appointment with a divorce attorney for Thursday afternoon, not because I was being impulsive, but because I had finally accepted what this marriage had become. I was tired of being the supporting character in my own life. Wednesday evening brought the last-ditch effort I had been expecting. She came home with flowers, a bottle of wine from our honeymoon trip, and what looked like a prepared speech. I have been doing some serious self-reflection, she began, arranging the flowers in a vase. I realize I have been prioritizing my career at the expense of our relationship. I've been so focused on proving myself professionally that I forgot to honor the man who made it all possible. The words were right, but they felt hollow. Like a client presentation designed to win back a dissatisfied customer. I want to take you on a vacation somewhere nice. We could go back to that resort in Cabo, the one where we had such a good time, when next month I can take some personal days. What about your promotion responsibilities? Will not people think you need time off to deal with personal issues? She flinched at my words being thrown back at her. I will handle that. How? By telling them your marriage is more important than your career. Because that contradicts everything you have been building your professional identity around. I am willing to adjust my priorities. Are you? Or are you willing to say you will adjust your priorities until this blows over and things go back to normal? She set down the wine bottle harder than necessary. I am trying to fix this. I am trying to show you that you matter to me. You are trying to manage this. There is a difference. I walked over to my briefcase and pulled out a business card. I met with someone today. A lawyer. The color drained from her face. A lawyer? You are talking to divorce attorneys? Without even giving counseling a chance? Without trying to work through this? I have been working through this for 6 years. I have been the understanding husband while you built your career. I have been the patient supporter while you figured out your professional identity. I have been the invisible partner while you celebrated every milestone as a solo achievement. She sank into the armchair, the fight going out of her. I never wanted to hurt you. But you did hurt me, repeatedly, and not by accident. You hurt me because acknowledging our partnership was inconvenient for the story you wanted to tell about yourself. What does the lawyer say? He says, I have options. I sat down across from her. He says, Colorado is a no-fault divorce state, which means we do not need to prove wrongdoing. He also says that since I supported you through school and the early stages of your career, there might be some interesting discussions about spousal support. Her professional mind kicked in immediately. Spousal support? But I make more money now. But I invested years of my earning potential in your education and career development. That investment created an earning disparity that benefits you. She stared at me like she was seeing me for the first time. You are serious about this. Dead serious. You wanted independence from your husband's support. Congratulations. You are about to get exactly what you asked for. The divorce papers were filed the following Monday. She had spent the weekend alternating between anger and panic, making phone calls to anyone who might talk sense into me. What she did not expect was how those conversations would backfire. Her friend Lisa called me Tuesday evening. I hope you do not mind me reaching out directly, she said, but I needed you to know something. She called me crying yesterday asking me to convince you to reconsider, and I told her I could not do that. Not after what I learned. This got my attention. What did you learn? She told me about the promotion party, but she left out some key details, so I asked around. My husband works for the same company, remember? Different department, but he was there that night. I waited. According to him, she had been complaining about you for months, telling people at work how you were holding her back and did not understand her ambitions. She apparently told several colleagues that she was considering leaving you once she got established in her career. My grip tightened on the phone. She said that there is more. She told people that you were jealous of her success and that you kept trying to take credit for her achievements. She painted you as this insecure husband who could not handle having a successful wife. The irony was staggering. While I had been supporting her career, she had been systematically destroying my reputation to justify her eventual abandonment of our marriage. Why are you telling me this? Because what happened at that party makes perfect sense now. She was not just being professional. She was performing for an audience she had already told that you were the problem in her life. When you tried to congratulate her, it contradicted the narrative she had been building about, you being unsupportive and jealous. After Lisa hung up, I sat in my car for 20 minutes processing this information. She had not just rejected my affection at the party, she had set me up to be rejected by spending months poisoning the well against me. The next few days brought more revelations. Her yoga instructor mentioned that she had been talking about getting her own place. Her sister let slip that they discussed how much money she would save on her own. Even her hairdresser had heard stories about her difficult marriage. By Thursday, the picture was complete. She had been planning her exit strategy for months, possibly longer. The promotion party was not a moment of professional anxiety. It was her testing the waters for a public separation from me. That evening, she tried one final manipulation. She came home with tears already streaming down her face, holding a handwritten letter. I wrote this for you, she said, her voice breaking. It is everything I should have said months ago. The letter was 3 pages of apologies and promises. She acknowledged her mistakes, praised my support, and outlined a detailed plan for rebuilding our marriage. It was beautifully written and completely hollow. This is very touching, I said, setting it aside. Did you write it before or after you told your yoga instructor that you were planning to leave me? Her face went white. What? Or maybe you wrote it after you told your colleagues that I was holding back your career, or after you discussed with your sister how much money you would save living alone. She opened her mouth to speak, then closed it again. Here is what I have learned over the past week, I continued. You were not just embarrassed by my affection at your party. You were panicked that I was contradicting the story you had been telling everyone about our marriage. You have spent months preparing people for our divorce by painting me as the villain. That is not true, really, because I have had some very interesting conversations with people who heard your version of our marriage. Apparently, I am a jealous, controlling husband who cannot handle your success. Apparently, I have been taking credit for your achievements and holding you back professionally. She sat down heavily, the performance finally dropping. I was just venting. Everyone complains about their spouse sometimes. Venting is saying you had a bad day. Systematically destroying your husband's reputation while planning to leave him, that is something else entirely. I was not planning to leave you. I pulled out my phone and showed her a screenshot that Lisa had sent me. It was from her private Instagram stories posted 6 weeks ago. Sometimes you outgrow people, even people you love. Growth requires letting go of what no longer serves your journey. That is about personal growth, not marriage, is it? Because 3 days later you posted about knowing when to walk away from situations that drain your energy. And last month you shared a quote about choosing yourself over relationships that require you to be smaller. She stared at the phone like it was evidence in a criminal trial, which in a way it was. You have been building a public narrative about leaving me for months. The only thing you did not expect was for me to leave first. For the first time since I had known her, she had no response. No strategic comeback, no emotional manipulation, no rational explanation. She had been caught completely. The really sad part, I said, putting my phone away, is that I would have supported your career, even if you had been honest with me. If you had said you needed more independence, we could have worked that out. If you had said you felt constrained by marriage, we could have addressed that. But instead, you chose to make me the villain in a story I did not even know I was part of. She was crying now, but they were not strategic tears. They were the tears of someone who had finally realized that their manipulation had backfired completely. I never wanted it to happen like this. No, you wanted it to happen on your timeline with you controlling the narrative. You wanted to be the successful woman who outgrew her husband, not the woman whose husband got tired of being treated like an embarrassment. The difference was everything, and we both knew it. The divorce was finalized on a Tuesday morning in early spring, 3 months from the day she had rejected my kiss at her promotion party to the day we signed papers dividing 6 years of shared life. She had hired an expensive attorney, thinking she could leverage her higher salary into a favorable settlement. She was wrong. Her lawyer had underestimated the financial records I had kept. Every receipt for her tuition, every bank statement showing me covering our expenses while she interned for free, every documentation of my career's sacrifices to support her ambitions. My attorney painted a clear picture. I had invested years of my earning potential in her career development, and Colorado law recognized that investment. The final settlement was more favorable to me than she had expected. She kept her promotion and her higher salary, but she also kept the responsibility for the debts she had accumulated during her career transition. The house went to me along with most of our shared assets. Her dream of financial independence became a reality, just not the way she had planned it. 6 months later, I ran into Jake from her office at a coffee shop downtown. He recognized me immediately and walked over with a knowing smile. "How are you holding up?" he asked, genuinely curious. "Better than expected." "You good?" "Good. I have to tell you, though, things have been interesting at the office since your divorce became public." I raised an eyebrow. "Interesting how?" Jake glanced around and lowered his voice. "Well, remember how she used to talk about being self-made, about not needing anyone's help to succeed? Turns out when people learned the real story about how you supported her through school and her early career, it changed some perspectives." "What kind of perspectives?" "The kind that matter for advancement." She has been passed over for 2 major projects since then. Not officially because of personal issues, but when leadership is evaluating who they want representing the company, character matters. And publicly humiliating your supportive spouse, that reflects a certain kind of character. I sipped my coffee, not sure how to respond to that. Plus, the way she handled the divorce proceedings did not help. She tried to claim she had built her career independently while simultaneously arguing she deserved more assets because of her higher income. People talk, word gets around about who is authentic and who is not. Jake finished his coffee and stood to leave. "For what it is worth, most of us thought what you did that night was perfect. Sometimes people need to hear hard truths, especially when they are delivered with that kind of style." After he left, I sat there thinking about how much had changed. I had moved back into the house we had shared, but I had completely redecorated. New furniture, new paint, new energy. The space felt like mine now, not like a museum of a failed relationship. My career had rebounded too, without the constant pressure to prioritize her needs over my opportunities. I had been able to focus on my own advancement. The promotion I had turned down 3 years ago had led to another opportunity, then another. It turned out that when you stop making yourself smaller to accommodate someone else's growth, you discover how much room you actually have to expand. The best part was the respect from friends who had watched me support her for years. From colleagues who had seen me sacrifice opportunities for her career. From family members who had wondered why I tolerated being treated like a silent partner in my own marriage. When I finally stood up for myself, people noticed. My phone buzzed with a text from my brother. "Drinks tonight? I want to hear about your date with that attorney from your firm." I smiled, typing back, "Sure, and her name is Rachel." Dating had been easier than I had expected. Not because I was desperate to replace what I had lost, but because I had finally learned what I would not accept. I had learned the difference between supporting someone's dreams and being diminished by them. I had learned that partnership meant mutual respect, not silent sacrifice. Rachel was different. She was successful in her own right, but she never made me feel like acknowledging our connection would somehow diminish her achievements. When we went to her firm's holiday party, she introduced me proudly. When she got promoted, she thanked me publicly for my support. Simple things that meant everything. A year after the divorce, I received an unexpected email. It was from her, sent from a personal account I did not recognize. I know I have no right to contact you, but I needed to say something. I have been in therapy for the past 8 months, working through what happened between us. I finally understand what I did to you, and I wanted to apologize properly. Not because I think it changes anything, but because you deserved better than what I gave you. You were a good husband, and I was too focused on my own insecurities to appreciate that. I hope you found the happiness you deserve. I read it twice, then deleted it, not out of anger, but because that chapter of my life was closed. She had made her choice that night at her promotion party, and I had made mine when I took the microphone. Everything that followed was just the inevitable conclusion of those two decisions. Sometimes people ask me if I regret how I handled things, if I think I should have tried harder to save the marriage, been more understanding of her professional pressures, given her more chances to change. The answer is simple: no. That night at her promotion party, when she rejected my affection because it might damage her professional image, she showed me exactly who I was in her life. I was the supporting character she was ashamed to acknowledge. When I grabbed that microphone and announced her promotion to single status, I showed her exactly who I was willing to be. The applause from her colleagues was not just for my dramatic gesture. It was recognition from people who had watched her diminish my role in her success for months. It was validation from witnesses who understood that respect is earned by giving it, not by demanding it while withholding it from others. She wanted to be seen as independent and self-made. Now she is, and I wanted to be seen as someone who would not tolerate disrespect from anyone, including his wife. Now I am too. We both got exactly what we asked for. Our story has come to an end. If you have made it this far, how about subscribing to our channel? It helps us immensely. I have selected 2 other videos for you that I am sure you will enjoy. Feel free to click on them. I will be waiting for you in the next story. See you soon.